So, you've been playing the fun and cool MOBA game called Eternal Return. It's free, and I've been feeling pretty bummed that you couldn't find a character that truly stuck with you. Until now! Finally, they added the ninja character of your dreams, which has platform heals. How the Whatever, it doesn't matter because now you have a character. But you later realize that you have no idea how to play her. Fortunately for you, Uncle Crotchy is here to break his back trying to teach you the classic teaching method of f***ing around and finding out. Which is gonna come in real handy because to start off my list of disclaimers, I'll need to start with the fact that all the information in quote-unquote tech that I'm going to talk about in this video are from my experience playing Tsubame and with the help of another ERBS gamer by the name of Mirai. Great lad, by the way, you should go check him out. The reason I'm pointing this out now is because neither of us are Tsubame mains, but we both sunk a decent amount of games in playing her, so in the case that I may spew some nonsense that isn't even correct, that's why. Besides that, let's go over the usual disclaimers of me not being a god gamer. I play this game casually and I don't know the ins and outs of how everything works in this game. Which by extension means I don't know how to play Tsubame optimally neither. I'm also assuming you know terms like skill amp, weapon mastery, and other usual ERBS lingo that I might bring up. Anyways, now that I got that usual spiel out of the way, let me try and help you figure out how to play Tsubame. Starting with stats, Tsubame is not all that impressive, even slightly lower than the average. But don't let that fool you, she's a menace. Despite the fact that she has a cool sword, she's actually a shuriken user which scales with basic attack amp and a good chunk of attack speed. And she's gonna need as much of that as she can get. Why, you ask? Well, you're about to find out when I get over her skills. Wow, that was a quick summary of her stats. What, you got nothing else to say? Alright, so usually I start this section off with a character's passive and go down from there. But for Tsubame, I am actually going to start with her ultimate, as it is literally just her entire kit. Yes, she has 3 other skills in the passive, but those are just there so she can get to her ult faster. It's pretty weird and honestly stupid and undoubtedly going to change in the future and make this entire video outdated. But for now, we have this. Anyway, Tsubame's R, or her ult, allows her to mark enemies that she basic attacks with that little sigil below their feet. Once she hits said marked target 3 times, the mark lights up and Tsubame gets to maintain vision on the marked target, while also allowing her to use her ult on said target. Once that happens, Tsubame dashes through the target and deals damage while healing off of said damage. Doing this will get rid of the mark, but you will be able to reapply it again afterwards. When Tsubame ults an enemy gamer, the cooldown of her W and passive get lowered, and she gets a buff that can slack up to 3 times. This buff enhances the damage of her next ult, meaning that if you keep ulting, it's going to hurt more and more, while also healing a lot more as well. Besides that, Tsubame can only have 1 mark target at a time, so if you hit one person with a mark and hit someone else afterwards, the previous mark will go away alongside all the progress you made on it. The mark will also go away if the target gets too far away from Tsubame, or when Tsubame doesn't hit them after a while. You may have noticed the log that Tsubame drops before she blinks through someone. We'll get to the finer details on how that works later down the guide. Her passive is fully leveled the second you boot into the game. Wow! Tsubame's attack range is fixed, meaning you can't increase or decrease how far your basic attacks can go. She also can't crit with said basic attacks. To make up for that, any increase to her crit chance or crit damage slightly increase her raw attack power instead. This passive is also responsible for making the log spawn, but once again we'll go over that soon enough. Her Q lets her throw 3 big shurikens in the direction of her choice. Once they land on the ground, they spin around and deal damage while slowing anyone hit. Her Q also adds a stack to your target's mark, but they'd need to have already been marked with a basic attack first for that. Her W gives Tsubame a massive boost of movement speed that gradually goes away after a bit. If that wasn't enough, Tsubame's next 2 basic attacks will also have increased attack speed for a few seconds, which will absolutely help in getting that ult mark ready as quickly as possible. Next up is her E, and I can finally bring up that log she keeps leaving behind. Tsubame dodges forward for a second while also becoming invisible. While she's doing that little animation, Tsubame cannot be targeted by anything and she is completely invincible until she's finished that animation. She can effectively use this like a parry to avoid slow, predictable attacks like Nikki's ult. Besides moving around and casting W for its buff, doing anything else, such as attacking, will end the invisibility early. And now the log. Whenever Tsubame casts her ult or her E, she leaves behind a log that she can teleport back to by targeting the log with her ult. The log's cooldown is tied to her passive, but leveling up her E lowers that cooldown. I don't know why. Tsubame's weapon skill lets her drop caltrops on the floor to damage and slow anyone stepping on them. She can use this while escaping to slow down her pursuers, or as a way to slow down her target when she's the one pursuing. Okay, I will admit there are definitely better ways to explain all of this in a more comprehensive manner, but that's about all of Tsubame's skills, really roughly explained.
I don't want to do this no more.
You're the flow of the celestial bodies.
After that rough showcase of Tsubame's moves, let's talk about how you'd probably want to play her in a real match. In terms of loadouts, Tsubame actually works with quite a lot of stats. You can run her pure attack power, sprinkle some crit in there, a lot, and I mean a ton of attack speed, so she gets to her ult quicker, and hell, even armor penetration. Because of this, most of the loadouts you'll run into are gonna try to mix a bit of everything together. So there's this loadout that I personally run, and just for the sake of choice, I asked Mirai to share the loadout that they use as well. Now once you load it and build your items, I would like to point something out. You're probably thinking, as many have as well, oh, Tsubame's a ninja. A ninja, so she's gonna play like an assassin, right? Well, yes, but actually no. Tsubame plays roughly similar to a lot of other range-based attackers, but with a small side of f*** it, we ball. Piece of shit. However, she doesn't exactly have the consistent and admittedly bullshit damage output that someone like an Aya with an assault rifle would have. Rather, a lot of her damage is gonna come solely from her ult. Oh, okay, so all I have to do is just poke someone enough times until they start glowing and ult them and they die, right? I wish. There are a couple of drawbacks that I have to bring up about Tsubame's ult that need to be known. First of all, her ult initially doesn't actually hurt that much. It's once you get those stacks from using your ult that it then becomes a proper threat. And once again, I'm making it sound like you need to forego everything around you and just go for that ult the second you can, but let me finish. Second of all, once you hit that ult button, you are going to blink through your target, which can and will put you in a bad position if they have their teammates there instead of your own. Thankfully, you could use the log that Tsubame leaves behind to teleport back to safety, but your ult does have a cooldown once you use it. It ain't a long cooldown, but it's long enough for your enemies to see where you are, CC the crap out of you, and eventually put you into the dirt. Third of all, the damage that the ult inflicts is delayed, meaning if you're fighting someone such as an assault rifle Aya, she might be able to actually put you down faster than you can do your entire sequence, even after you hit the ult. Tsubame's also locked in this animation where she dramatically poses for a second, meaning that you can't do anything until she finishes the entire thing, which, once again, leaves you open for a devastating counterattack. In short, ulting someone as Tsubame is very committal, so make sure you think you can get away with it before you do it. Now to talk about what's good about Tsubame. Much like other ranged basic attackers, or ADCs if you play a certain other MOBA, she's not that sturdy in terms of health. However, what she has that most of the other characters of the same archetype don't have is a shit ton of mobility. This bitch is fast. She has an on-demand speed boost, an invisible short dash that can work as a parry, a pretty far blink in the form of her ult, or two blinks if you use the attack skill too, and all of that in a relatively short cooldown. Editor's note, no? Sure, you can probably snap her in two like a twig, if you can even catch her. Even on her own, as long as Tsubame exists in all corners of the screen, she can take a single target down with barely a sweat. I love skill shot characters. And that's how you should play her. Because her marks go away the second you start hitting someone else, you kinda have to commit to one target until they finally drop or when they're too far to be a problem. Tsubame, in a weird turn of events, is actually much stronger in longer team fights than a quick skirmish. For example, she could target the tank of a group while the rest of her team goes for the backline, and while the tank attempts to save their babies, Tsubame can stack her ult from their big health pool, which means that when it's finally the squishy's turn, they won't stand a single chance. Yes, Tsubame takes a bit of elbow grease to get her working compared to other characters who are dangerous early on, can kill really fast, and take much less effort like Aya, Zahir, Yuki, or Sua. But once you start dashing around at the speed of light, you'll be unstoppable. Now go delete that guy's health bar while looking cool as